Hi, my name is Sean Alcamon, and my professor of Women's Studies towards the end of the semester asked us to, as a class, to think up of an idea of what we could do to share some of our thoughts and feelings with the world as to the subjects that we've studied throughout the semester. Women's Studies as a whole deals with the struggles that both men and women deal with in modern day culture and society, religion, and so what we've done is we've compiled, we've got a few students together, we compiled a short video of thoughts and feelings on some of the topics that we've discussed throughout the semester. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you can take something away from it that will inspire you to go out and do something, make a difference in your community.
You know, when we started studying about domestic violence in my women's studies class, I thought, it doesn't really affect my life. Yeah, I had that sister who got out of that bad marriage, but that was so long ago, and I didn't really think it had anything to do with me. And then I started reading the stories, and I started remembering about my childhood friend who was sexually molested by her father. And I remember in high school that one of my friends, she told us that she really liked it when her boyfriend hit her because it made her feel like he really loved her. And that was shocking to me. Later, when I was a young mother, I met somebody who had been date raped. And she actually ended up marrying him because she was so ashamed of being unchaste. But the one that I can't believe I forgot was a friend, a person in my congregation who was murdered by her husband. And I feel really bad that I didn't remember that. But one thing I've learned from this class is that violence is violence. It doesn't matter if it happens in a backyard or a back alley, it's violence. And if somebody hadn't looked out the window that night, they wouldn't have seen him trying to drown his wife. Unfortunately for her, they didn't save her, but they did save her 2 children. And I think I've decided that it's important to get involved, whether you're driving by and see something or you see something over your back fence. Be a nosy neighbor, be a hero. Don't let people get away with murder.
Daffodils and guns pointing at your sons.
Fistula is a condition that happens most often in developing countries such as Africa and Bangladesh. When fistula occurs, it happens during prolonged labor and no medical attention. And when this happens, a hole develops in the birth canal and urine flows uncontrollably from the body. And this is often very embarrassing and shameful for a woman. And so she is alienated from her family and forced out of her society. So along with the death of her child, she is also completely alone. And so there's very little hope for these women. And what is more devastating about this is that it is very easily preventable and very treatable. Well, however, women's rights in developing countries are often very ignored, and health services are failing to meet their needs. So what we need to do is find solutions to poverty and poor reproductive health, which will stop the cycle of fistula.
Walking home from her family's farm one afternoon, 17-year-old Dinah was gang raped by 5 soldiers carrying knives and guns. After finishing the rape, one of the men stuck a stick inside of Dinah, causing a fistula or hole in her tissue. This story is horrifying, but the most unfortunate part of it is that these instances are not solitary. According to the book Half the Sky, 50% of women in Sierra Leone endured sexual violence or the threat of it during the upheavals in that country. And a UN report claims that 90% of girls and women over the age of 30 were sexually abused in parts of Liberia during its civil war. But the world capital of rape is Dinah's homeland, Eastern Congo, where rape is literally being used as a weapon of war. From where we sit in the first world, such horrors seem incomprehensible. That's why the authors of Half the Sky encourage those who grew up in the safety and wealth of a developed country to volunteer at places like Heal Africa, a hospital that treats rape victims like Dinah in the Congo while also empowering them through vocational skills training for women and education for young girls waiting for treatment. It's impossible to understand an issue by simply reading about it, write the authors of the book. You need to see it firsthand, even live in its midst. For more information on how you can help rape victims in the Congo and elsewhere, visit healafrica.org.
The portrayal of women in magazines, especially today, they are the expectation of women is to be perfect, because the portrayal of them is, perfect hair, perfect body, perfect everything. This causes problems with a lot of women today because they get self-esteem issues, because really 5% of women in the world have this body type. So obviously the 95% of the other women have issues with this, and they think that they're not good enough. Anorexia, bulimia, there's a lot of health problems that are related to this because of the advertisements. In addition to that, there are a lot of, there's an objectification of women where, body parts are shown without the face, and women are shown more as things than women. We can fight against this by not supporting the what's being advertised in these ads. We can gain more confidence in ourselves by not paying attention to these expectations and just being our best selves. And I just want to ask, are you buying into this objectification, and what can you do to fight against it?
She hates, but I think it's so sexy. She's so beautiful.
Human trafficking is a problem in the world today. It's portrayed in Hollywood as something that's not real, but it really is. I was born in the Philippines, and that's an issue in Southeast Asia, and a lot of it's due to poverty and just lack of opportunities for these young women. And they, these mostly rich men capitalize on their poverty, and it takes away their free will, their future, their future for their whole family, and it dehumanizes them. And that's found not just in Southeast Asia, but all over the world. And associated with it is they drug them, and they're treated like animals, worse than animals, and as slaves. And so being aware of this is very important. You can go to like unicef.com or just Google it and find places where you can learn about it and do something about it. Donations or volunteer somehow to help these women recover.
The lack of education is a big issue in third world countries, and growing up I had the experience where education wasn't optional. My parents never enforced me to decide what I should become or what I should do in school, but they always told me that I had to go to school. That was an option. I had to get a degree, and I had to become someone, and then from there I could decide whatever I want to do. I think we all have an opportunity to do something. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. We have the power and the opportunity to fight for a better education system. And the question I would like to ask you that is watching this video right now is, what are you doing to make the education system better in your country?